from the quarterfinals, remember what I said at the start, folks, we are looking to the main objective. Or we could also argue maybe the main objective isn't to get the CrossFit Games, guys. Maybe the main objective is to get the Open as big as possible. However, the end result of the CrossFit Games season, the start of the Open quarterfinals, is to get the fittest guys for the CrossFit Games. The next stage from quarterfinals, we then whittle the fields down to a semi-final competition, which now becomes a in-person rather than an online competition.
Yeah, except for, so I think it's in person for the individuals.
Yes.
And for the teams, as they have done.
Yes.
The Masters, because there's so many divisions through there, and the teens is still online. But the changes that they've made this year is they've increased that to 200 athletes.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big change. And I think, again, people may talk about whether or not this is financial. In actual fact, we'll come back to the financial bit. But if you look in the 35 to 39 category, there are, within that category, there are at least 10 to 15 male athletes who have podiumed at the games.
Wow.
I mean, you've got Rich Froning, one of the greatest athletes of all time, is there. You have Dan Bailey, Josh Bridges, Sam Dancer. I mean, that's just coming out of America.
Wow.
So this is where we talk about as the sport has grown, so what we offer has to grow.
I've just had a thought there, mate. And maybe it's because they were the athletes, let's say, of the era where I was competing in CrossFit. Rich Froning was insanely dominant, as was Matt Fraser, of course, as well. And Tia Toomey is now even post having a baby, which is probably a whole other podcast. And I'm maybe not as in touch with the younger guys these days, but we were having a chat before as well that, traditionally one of the biggest non-CrossFit Games competitions is Wodapalooza, which is happening literally as we record this show. And none of the big names of the current era were there. If I looked at Dubai Fitness Championships, which happened in December here in Dubai, we used to get all of the top guys and girls. To be honest, there were a few people that, nothing against them. They put their heart and soul into it, and there is no shame, but they weren't the best in the world at the moment. So what I'm getting to is I'm more excited about this Masters and the fact that Froning and Dan Bailey and, Josh Bridges and maybe, I don't know what Jason Kalipa's relationship with life is like anymore. He's been on the podcast number 300. Go check it out. Imagine seeing these guys. They're still in insane shape. Some people say that Froning could win the games, the games, not just for his age category. What are you most excited about is my question.
Look, I think this is probably jumping the gun a little bit when it goes to the games, but I think it's the people that I looked up to. Like Froning was one of the reasons I got into CrossFit.
100%.
I watched a YouTube video on this guy and I was like, I can beat him. I did the first workout and I was like, even if he did it on one leg, he'd still beat me.
Is that because he always just looked so relaxed? You're like, well, if I can work hard because he's not even working hard, I can beat him.
Mate, he was stacked. We both come from a rugby background and there's big blokes and you walk in and there's this guy doing all this stuff and he just in incredible shape. Yeah. Lifting heavy weights. And it was just inspiring to want to be like that.
100%.
To look at guys who are 15 years down the line still look like that.
Yeah.
It's still inspiring, but I think I think within that category, if I'm honest, what I'm looking forward to, and if he gets a big head, I'll give him a clip around the ears. The likes of someone like Sandro competing with guys like that.
Yeah, right.
That for me, I see Sandro, how he works. I see the amount of training and the amount of time and effort he puts in to try be in that top 200 in the world. And to watch him get to that, which I really hope he does this year, that for me is like, it makes me happy. It's gold.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
And then if he goes next level and suddenly he's on the floor with guys like this, like that's a whole different game for them.
The semi-finals for the open age category up to the age of 35.
So it is to 35. However, you can be as old as you want.
You can be as old as you want.
Yeah.
So they take place, and these are actually good competitions to go and watch if you're in the areas where they're held. If not, they're all streamed live on YouTube, because this is what we'd know as the best athletes from the region, and they're split into those 7 different regions that we spoke about: Europe, Asia, Oceania, North America East, North America West, South America, and Africa. So you're seeing the best athletes from that region throw down over a 3-day competition in various locations around the world. Like, actually just reading here that Europe is actually at the French Throwdown this year in May. There's the Far East Throwdown. There's loads of stuff. All of this is on games.crossfit.com. And then from there, the top athletes, of which there's an allowance, shall we say, that from Europe, they take the top 5 male and female. From Asia, they take the top 2 male and female. Oceania, 3. North and America East and West, 5 each. South America, 2. And Africa, 1. Which adds up to about 20.
So I think with them, and they did it last year, and this is where they've been really smart, is I think they say 5, a minimum of a certain number.
Yeah.
Because what they look at is
the minimum number.
They look at the strength within that region.
Yes.
Because what happens sometimes, and Europe is a really good example of this, there are some incredible athletes there.
Yes.
And if you took 5 of those athletes and dotted them around America, they would make the games. But because they're in such a competitive region, they're never going to make the games. And so that's what CrossFit did really well, is they gave ample opportunity based on the strength of the region for the amount of athletes that get to go and participate.
The minimum number, that adds up to about 25, and then they'll fill probably another 15 places. They get up to about 40 males and 40 females, who will then be invited to the CrossFit Games, which is a new site this year. It's moved from California to Madison, Wisconsin, or was it there last year as well? Anyway,
it was there last year. Yeah.
Fort Worth, Texas, 8th to the 11th of August. If you're into this stuff, I've been twice to watch the CrossFit Games. It's mental. It is absolutely brilliant. There are slight changes this year in that that's the location and the dates for the individuals.
And the teams.
We're now seeing a separate event entirely for masters or age group athletes. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
Again, I think it shows where the sport is growing, and that CrossFit recognized that in order for the sport to grow, and as these divisions grow, is that these guys deserve their own airtime. You know, one of the things that happens...
Teenagers as well.
Yeah.
Is in this, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it will probably be... We need to look into it, but there's also the whole adaptive division.
I'm scrolling down. I'm super organized.
You can see we both are. Is that I think it gives... It's really good opportunity for... Because the guys who are in the Masters category train probably just as hard as some of these other guys, and they deserve just as much recognition. And to give them that airtime, because not all their family and friends can afford to go to the US to watch them compete. Some of these athletes can barely just make it there financially themselves. So to give them a dedicated platform for them to be the stars of the show.
Yeah.
Because if you ask who won the CrossFit Games last year, everyone can tell you. But if you ask who won the 40 to 45 category, no one really knows because it's been overshadowed.
Yeah.
Yet that's where some of the real, incredible stuff is, watching someone who's 60 to 64 doing a muscle up.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But once you've watched the top, sort of the open category, then you've watched a bit of teams, then
It's a long day.
It's a long day, isn't it? I mean, it's good when you're there, and that's what I'm also interested to see how that plays out, because being at the CrossFit Games, the Masters took place in a slightly different area at the StubHub Center in LA. That's where it was. But the individuals would come on, and then they'd put the teams on, and then go back to individuals. So it was a great experience. I just wondered now, and you knew that the Masters and the teams were going on in various other areas. Yes, there is more people now, which we're all for more participation, but it created this carnival atmosphere at the games where you could kind of hop and see a little bit of everything. That's my only concern, that feeling is a little bit taken away now. And you're right, mate. It's great that these guys are getting their own event and their own airtime, and there's some insane, like some of them like 55 plus males and females. I remember watching something. I think it was actually a 60-year-old lady doing ring muscle ups. And of course, why not? But you see it and you're like, this is a good sport.
Yeah, or you watch, it wasn't last year because she was competing. I think it's, I can't remember her surname, but a girl called Olivia, she competed in her first games last year. She was in the teens before that. And I think in the teens, she got a lift that would have placed her third
in the open category. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
it'll be interesting to see how it all sort of plays out, having it mixed. But if you are in the States, if you are anywhere near Fort Worth, Texas, around that time, which is the end of August, it's a hell of the 8th of August this year, 8th to 11th of August. It's a hell of a competition to go and watch.